Welcome back to the Goonerverse podcast, everyone. For the first time, this is a bit more of a match reaction, but there's a little game we're playing. Sheroy doesn't know about it. We're going to figure it out through the show, but essentially, we're previewing Man City by building what we think is our best 11. And I think for the first time in a long time, first time you're hearing this, Sheroy, because I don't need to think too much. I wanted to get your kind of reaction in the moment as we go position by position. But I think for the first time, there is major debate around big positions and the use of certain players and how to do it. I've looked at the team and I think in about 6 or 7 of the positions, we're going to have a really good debate. And I can't remember the last time I said this about Arsenal. So I think it's going to be great. But we start, obviously, this is the day after a very good win against Bilbao, or Athletic Club, should I say, in Bilbao. I did a reaction on Goonerverse News. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. And I'm really excited for your take on this, Sheroy, because Arsenal, we haven't done the usual niceties, the how are yous and everything. But I'm interested on your take on the game because a lot of people were very divided in terms of the performance versus the result and all that. But that's the intro. Sheroy, how are you? I'm back in England. Yay. How are you? Where have you been? What's going on? Any more weddings?
No more weddings until Friday, the 3rd of October. But yeah, look, I'm good, man. Midweek 2-0 win away from home against a team that really came out of the blocks. All eyes on you. Opening game of the Champions League. I don't really understand why anyone would be complaining about that. I think I've come to realize that there are just certain sections of the fan base that unless you're 3-0 up at halftime and your subs come on and make it 5-0, there is going to be something to, some might say dissect, some might say complain about. But all in all, I'm very happy with that performance. Get in, get out, another clean sheet on the board. Bring on Man City this weekend. How are you? What's it like being back in London after your world travelling?
You know, like we had a really good chat, didn't we, on the first podcast back about everything that's been kind of keeping us away from content and everything. And I always said, well, one thing I want to make 2025, which hasn't sort of been, it's been like my happiest and my least happiest year at the same time. And I just said, well, let me at least spend time experiencing things. I'm very lucky to have the Goonerverse, which I can do in most places. So I've done that. I was just in Milan visiting my grandma with my girlfriend there. I was in Nashville where we did the last podcast. So yeah, Milan's happened in between Nashville and being home. So I've been here, there and everywhere. But I mean, you know, I've just sort of tried to work everything out to work that way for this year. Now I'm back and I'm ready to get into Arsenal stuff. So, and you know what? Like, I feel really good about this season. I saw someone tweet, it was, they quote tweeted Zubamendi's celebration after his goal the other day. What a goal, by the way. I see normally on this podcast, we'd be talking about that as well. So I think we'll try and encompass both wins into this. But someone said something just feels right. And I know what they mean. Like this season, even when we lost to Liverpool, we said this on this podcast, this isn't hindsight, we didn't feel too down about our actual chances of having a good season. We were just annoyed that potentially 3 points, 1 point slipped away from us. But there's definitely a good energy around the club. And this might be famous last words for Man City. I remember a year ago saying to you on the pod that I thought we were the best team in the country and everything imploded after that. So let me try not to jinx things too much. But I'm just wondering whether you're feeling that too. Do you think there's an energy around the team and the club right now?
There is. And look, I don't want to underestimate the impact that both of us doing everything that we can to enjoy our lives also has upon our perception of football, right? I mean, you just said that you really enjoyed this year, bro. I've been trying to do the same, man. I've done, Tenerife, Latvia, Lisbon, Istanbul, mate's wedding in Glasgow. Like we're trying our best to live very full lives outside of football, and that can sometimes make you feel good about football too, right? But the one thing that I'd really notice about this now, I'm going into this season without any fear of things really going wrong. Now, whether that's because we've been through real disappointment over the last few years and we're sort of numb to it, or whether it's because of the fact that we finally, for once, and I think the manager feels this way as well, finally feel as though we're equipped to deal with even real adversity in terms of injuries, poor decisions, whatever it might be. I think that does lead to a level of calmness, which helps breed that good feeling around the team, right? Because we're looking at it now saying, I'm not going to do what everyone on every pod does and list the amount of players that are out name by name. We all know who they are. But we're looking at that, and the only goal that we've conceded in a competitive fixture this year was that wonder strike against Liverpool. And we've just gone away from home. That atmosphere, I know I was only listening to it on TV, but the manager said it after the game. He said that was one of the best atmospheres he's ever played in. And I take that to mean it was a difficult atmosphere for the Arsenal players to play in. To come out of that against a team that was really, really aggressive and tried to go pound for pound, punch for punch with us, it shows the level of resilience and depth that we have. And I think that leads to the feel-good factor massively, bro.
Yeah, I think the squad depth for sure. I mean, we may as well go into it then. We beat Forest 3-0 and now we've got this win against Athletic Club. Two very, very different wins, but it takes me to quotes that you often reference from Arteta, which is the winning in any context quotes. And those were two games with incredibly different contexts. One of them is sunny North London, at home, debuts for Eze, Madueke getting a start, Gyökeres, we're still excited to kind of see what we're getting from him. Forest with a new manager, attacking football expected, 12:30 kickoff, everything, buzz, football, it's all clicks and you win 3-0. And it was a game where the goal scoring was opened by a wonder strike from Zubimendi. And you see all that and you think, yeah, that is kind of as good a day's work as you can kind of hope for, and the energy is there. Same with the Leeds win. That Leeds win was kind of full of vibes and energy, wasn't it? I'm glad the Emirates is carrying that because it reminds me of 22-23 more than any other recent season. But the context of this game was so different. A point's not the end of the world, and whatever people think, and people can throw that Man City celebration at me all they like, a point in one of your tougher away games across 8 games, like Atalanta was last season when we kicked off this sort of 8-game league phase campaign, it's not a bad result. And when you've got that in your mind that, well, a draw's okay, it does alter a little bit how you play, a little bit how you take the game on, how aggressive you are on challenges, how high up the pitch you are, where your back line sits, and potentially what kind of 11 you go for. Now, he went for Marino probably to keep things solid. Now, the reason I was disappointed with the inclusion of Marino against Liverpool was because I thought we could win, and I thought we should have gone to try and win because I thought we were capable of it, and I thought Liverpool had shown a real lack of defensive resilience, and we never really tested that. With Athletic, I feel differently. They won 3 games out of 4. Okay, they lost their last home game, but the occasion was always going to be different. Back in the Champions League, the noise in the stadium was always going to be something to contest with, and players like Zubimendi and Marino know what it's like to play there. And he kind of went with his trusted soldiers, and I don't really blame Arteta for doing that for that one game. Turned out it kind of worked for him. It wasn't a great performance, but I saw plenty of positives in the way he approached it.
Yeah, for sure. And given the sort of local rivalry and the understanding of that rivalry that Marino has, I don't think he was ever being left out of that. I think he would have had a ruck with Arteta if he was on the bench for that. I think he went there and was like, I understand this occasion, I want to play, do not leave me out. I don't think Marino has ever a doubt for this. And it's interesting what you say about the team selection, because I have, as you say, it's strange, right? Because typically we have a day to digest this, but we're recording this a couple of hours after the match. So I haven't listened to anyone else's opinion. I haven't seen any other content, but the only thing I have seen is obviously when you scroll on your feed, you see the very instantaneous sort of reactions in the posts on X. And a lot of people were moaning about the lineup and saying that the first half wasn't adventurous and wasn't creative enough. And I think that is somewhat rudimentary purely because of the fact that it's easy to say, well, he didn't score, so that must be the answer. But I do think that if we were a bit more clinical and if our decision-making was a bit better in the final third, and we might come on to this, I am looking at Noni Madueke when I say that to an extent, we would have been 1 or 2 up in that half. I think the back four were imperious. I think the goalkeeper was borderline flawless. I think the midfield had a real battle, a physical battle on its hands and couldn't quite get a foothold in the game. That being said, when we did get the ball long, when we did get the ball up to the front three, there were spaces to exploit. I think Eze was very, very isolated. I think Gyökeres did absolutely everything that he could and fashioned a couple of chances from decent balls in.
He's looking better and better every game, isn't he, Gyökeres?
Absolutely, absolutely. But with Noni, and please don't take, I'm not jumping on Noni here, but this is what I felt when I was watching the game. I sat there and I thought, the amount of times that you absolutely blow past your fullback and get into really, really threatening areas. I haven't got the numbers because I haven't had the time to look it up, but it was a lot. I would expect at least 1 goal contribution out of the amount of times you find yourself in that area. And that does sort of fall back to what people said about him when he came to Arsenal. That he has that one-on-one capability. He has that ability to keep the ball really close and then absolutely blitz past you. But when he gets into that area, is his decision-making and his end product exactly what it ought to be? And I couldn't help but think, or I couldn't help but go back to all the pods that I listened to after Forest where people were saying, well, if Saka's back, does he walk straight back into the team? Because I look at Bukayo Saka and I don't see someone that beats his fullback the amount of times repetitively in a game that Noni Madueke does. But if Bukayo Saka beats his fullback 4 times in a game, he's probably going to set something up where he's going to score it himself. Whereas I think Noni needs maybe twice as many opportunities to get that level of goal contribution. Right now, if that had all gone according to plan and we were a little bit more, if we had a little bit more cutting edge in the final third, I don't think anyone really would have been questioning the lineup or the team selection.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. You know, the reason I don't feel quite, I'm not saying I'm being critical of Madueke, but the how do I say this? Essentially, the angle you're kind of evaluating him from, I actually completely agree with. There's nothing you said I don't agree with, but I don't really look at it so much because in a game where we weren't as a collective doing much going forward at all, I kind of just really appreciated that as an individual he was doing quite a lot. And yeah, I agree. The cutback or picking someone out was lacking at times, but he just kept terrorizing his fullback. And I believe sometimes, as much as I like to be all tactical and do the breakdowns and talk, about the real intricacies of the game as much as I understand them, and obviously coaches understand it, 1,000 times more. As much as I love to talk about those things, I also just love a player who will just smash a fullback, will just get the ball and just destroy him. And I think that is such a underrated, effective part of the game. A goal scorer that a striker just scores goals. Like, a defender that knows how to make a tackle. Like sometimes you do just kind of fall back on he's really good at doing the one thing you expect them to be able to do in that position. And Madueke was doing that a lot. I felt that after seeing out a 20-25 minutes where Arsenal struggled, I actually thought we ended the first half the better team and ended the second half the better team. And when I reflect on Athletic's performance, what did they do? They're in the Champions League. They got good players. We were talking about Sunset. Obviously, Nico Williams didn't play, but Iñaki Williams did. There's players there I recognise. They've got a good manager, Ernesto Valverde. They've got 3 wins out of 4. Can you think of one moment they should have scored? There was one moment in the first half where they put it wide, but that was actually when we were starting to attack. So I feel really good about the performance, to be honest.
It's one of the things. Remember, we used to. When was it? I think it was the season before last. We used to constantly just go on about the fact that, forget conceding chances, people couldn't really get into our box.
Yeah. And
it was nuts. We were just like, you can't get anything against us, right? And to be honest, for large parts of even that Liverpool game, it did look like that. They couldn't get into our box. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And I'm sure that there will be the equivalent of James and Sheroy sitting there somewhere on a podcast in Bilbao somewhere saying, well, we were at home and we didn't really take the initiative, but that was because of how incredible we were at nullifying them. The thing is, it's not that I take it for granted anymore, bro. It's just that I'm not surprised when we nullify our position because I know we can do that. And I know that we're one of the best in the world at doing that. One of the reasons that I do express concern as to being clinical up front, and that's all it is, a slight concern. I'm not saying that it's the be all and end all here, is because I know that down the line there will be games where we might concede or we may not get as many opportunities. And it's at that moment that I feel like a player like Noni Madueke, in the same way that a player like Gabriel Martinelli has come into that criticism in the past, that's where people will go, you need that conversion. You do need that ratio. He's early in his Arsenal career. I mean, he probably will get there. But if I'm looking at today in isolation, I just think that the amount of times that he went past that fullback, he could have maybe done a little bit more and the narrative would have changed. That being said, if you look at the manager's game plan, he would have gone there to keep a clean sheet. He said it himself. He said sometimes the finishers are far more important than those that start. And outside looking in, it looks like he got it right to a T.
Yeah, and I was having a good debate on Twitter with people who said, how could you say Arteta got it spot on? I said, well, okay, let me try to be as consistent as possible. And this is conversation we had on this podcast, Sheroy, I'm pretty sure it was here, not Forever Arsenal, which is that, or maybe it was both. I think it was both. Arteta probably deserved to be cut more slack for the Liverpool performance. It was a wonder free kick. It would have been a 0-0 at your rivals early in the season. Big players missing. You take it and run. Like he coached a good enough point at Anfield. Sure, without a doubt, he coached that. He nullified one of the best attacking teams to nothing but a wonder free kick to essentially beat us. But we didn't talk about that as much. We mentioned it. What we talked about was a team that are capable of producing moments, and if you don't roll the dice and have more of a go, you are at risk of one of those moments biting you. So it was results-based analysis, but for a reason, because actually you look at the likeliness is Liverpool are going to find a moment, and it took something extraordinary, but they did find it. And this is where I see it differently. But again, it's results-based analysis. If you're sensible, if you're defensive, if you're smart, if you stop Bilbao from scoring, you're probably going to get one. So yes, it's kind of similar in that Mourinho started. People were surprised about that. Maybe we didn't really go for it or play as much of the attacking football. But with this one, it made more sense to me. And ultimately, results-based analysis, he won. He got it right. He made his changes. They came on and they both won us the game with a goal and assist each. So how can I be anything but praising for Arteta? Would I have liked someone else to start? Maybe, but I understood it. He opted for Mourinho starting and Martinelli and Trossard coming on before bringing on Dalman and Waneri and before keeping Eze and Gyökeres on to see the game. He went for his trusted players, the three who have been over here for over a year, who have played in big games, away in Europe, whatever it is, for Arsenal, for Arteta, and he took off the two new signings and he didn't bring on the two youngsters who are still learning their trade in this team. There's no coincidence there. Arteta's done that for a reason. He won the games. I'm going to praise it because it worked. Could we have won if Darwin and Waneri came on? Absolutely. Or Waneri started in the 10, maybe. Or some are saying Eze in the 10 with Martinelli on the left. We might well have still won. We might have played brilliant football. But we don't need to know. We don't need to know whether we would have or not, because we did win and we take on to the next game. And I'm all right with that.
For sure. I think a lot of people might be, the people that you were having that debate with in the comment section, I feel like they might be carrying their halftime sentiment into the full-time result. But you really do have to analyze the whole game. Because I was watching it on, I was watching it on TNT. And even the commentators at halftime, I found this really strange, actually, because it doesn't happen often. They were saying, well, if Arsenal do leave here with a point, it's not the worst result to kick off your Champions League campaign, is it? And I was just sat there like, it's half-time, though. That's a conversation you have at the 85th minute. Why are you having that conversation at half-time? And it's because it did at that moment look like maybe the deadlock wasn't going to be broken. But the reality of the situation, look, even if you listen to David Raya pre-match, right? David Raya, what they're asking all of our players and managers about now for their content is, how did going out to PSG make you feel? And what a lot of them said was, look, we're looking at progression, we're looking at trajectory. The way that we went out to Bayern was one thing. The way that we went out to PSG was another. Those two Champions League campaigns were different, but the experience that we have from that, we're not just saying it, we're not just giving it lip service. It was invaluable. And that is why, in my opinion, Arteta went for Trossard and Martinelli, because they've got that experience. They absolutely have that experience. And if you look at, I mean, we can come on to the Martinelli goal and the Martinelli finish as and when, but, and I'm not saying it was the best finish in the world, by the way. I think a better keeper saves that. But the reality of it is, he had a very, very similar chance against Donnarumma in the PSG game, and it was saved, right? So maybe that experience now leads to it ending up in the back of the net. I don't know. It's so easy for us to get gassed as Arsenal fans when it comes to football fans generally, when it comes to young, exciting talent that we know play with absolutely no fear and take the game by the scruff of the neck and carry the ball and drive with it and, win penalties the way Damon does. But we need to understand that it's called the Champions League for a reason. People talk about European away days for a reason. Pay the Spanish league some respect, man. I mean, I think Athletic Club are one of three teams to never have been relegated, bro, and the only others are like Madrid and Barca. I mean, they're an esteemed company there. We're not. I understand that they got hammered by United and we had a good result against them pre-season, but they're not some dead team. They're not. So, and that was absolutely vindicated by the way they started the game. I thought for large parts of that first portion of the game, we were second best, and they were really, really on it. And if you have a slightly more slender youngster or someone that doesn't have the experience, maybe you do get bullied a bit more. Maybe you aren't as resilient. Maybe they do get in behind a bit easier. Maybe your front three are even more isolated. Who knows? The reality is we don't need to find out now, because in my opinion, the manager got it right.
I agree. And I want to stress, I'm not saying that Arsenal's game plan was necessarily to go out there and sort of stink the place out and try and nick a goal. I know I've probably made it come across that way. What I'm really trying to say is, I think Arteta went for those who gave him a higher floor. Like Arsenal, at the very least, will be this bad, if that makes sense. And they should get to another level. Like I think that's more how we saw it. And Yes, Arsenal's passing wasn't that crisp. Arsenal's passing wasn't that creative. The fluidity weren't there. The rotations, everything I praised about the Forest win wasn't there. But how great that when it doesn't click, you can fall on brilliant defensive principles to get you through a difficult period. And then Zubimendi starts punching it through the lines to Declan Rice or finding Marino or Timber, he did a few times. Pinged a great ball out to Madueke, played a lovely ball over the top to Gyökeres. Suddenly it was Zubimendi who was getting us up the pitch a little bit, doing really nice work. Then again, things aren't going right in the second half, and you bring on Trossard and Martinelli. And the way I described it on Goonerverse News, I'm going to give myself some credit. I actually think I might have stumbled on something here. Arsenal were playing with Eze dropping in to create and Gyökeres making the runs, and Arteta sensed that their centre-backs were giving away a lot of foul. I say Arteta sensed. Maybe he didn't. This is how it looked to me. Their centre-backs couldn't really cope with Gyökeres. They were getting bullied quite often and either giving away fouls or getting turned or whatever. Trossard was probably going to win those battles too, if not for his movement, his trickery. He actually did a few times with the first goal, and also I think Vivian gave away. So when he caught Vivian and he gave a free kick to Bilbao for no reason. Anyway, and he probably recognised that actually he needed the creativity more central and then the pace out wide where Madueke was having a lot of fun too. So he altered, yes, he made 2 substitutions, which are quite like for like in terms of the positions they play, but he actually switched the profiles. He's like, now the football will be funneled through the striker and the runs will be made off the winger. And then you see, Martinelli destroying the fullback on the left and Trossard getting the goal. And look, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it felt like that was very deliberate from Arteta. And, lo and behold, they go and get themselves, 2 really, really good goals and deservedly so. I thought they made a brilliant impact, those 2.
Yeah, and it makes complete sense to take that approach when the game is stretched. Right. I mean,
yeah.
One thing that really did strike me is, even though we've just done this for about 20 minutes, I can think of a diving Gyökeres header that's like inches away from going in. I can think of Eze being on his heels ever so slightly inside the 6-yard box where he could have put one away. I think of a number of opportunities where Madueke was in behind. There was one that looked like a mishit cross with the outside of the boot that nearly crept in. Even late on in the game, there was a wonderful cross when Marino went up top. He couldn't quite get underneath it. I mean, these are all some are half chances, some are better than that. But again, bro, 1 or 2 of those go in, goes back to your results-based analysis point. People then aren't talking about the creativity. People then aren't talking about the lineup. People aren't saying, "Oh, you relied upon your substitutions to win it late in the game." It's amazing how these moments can absolutely change people's perceptions of a game. But one thing that I would love your opinion on, yeah. When you're talking about the floor, I agree. I was thinking about this when I was at the gym after the game. I was like, I think Arteta went there to give himself the best platform to stay in the game and then maybe go on and win it. But do you think that managers genuinely ever go into a game and say, we're going to win it in the 3rd quarter, or we're going to win it at that stage? We're going to stick around and that's where we're going to win it, and here's what we're going to do to win it. Or is it a case of, well, no, we're always going to try and put a game to bed in the first half, but if we can't, here's what we're going to do to change it? Because there are people that will say Arteta very often does go there to try and absolutely nullify and then grow into the game, which inevitably happens a bit later.
What a question. It's a great question. I think some do. I think some managers, I don't know if Arteta's this, but I think some managers genuinely have gone out with game plans of, let's get through this first hour because that's where statistically they get their most shots or whatever. But player A and player D tend to tire at this moment, and that's when I'm going to make certain substitutions because they never get brought off. And yeah, I do think there's a plan. I do think managers absolutely think of things like that. I don't know if that's necessarily what Arsenal and Arteta do. I think Arsenal and Arteta more so say, all right, it's loud. We weren't expecting that 11. They might have prepped something different. Rein it in. Because Calafiori wasn't galloping up and down the pitch today like he normally would. He picked up some high positions, but not really. He wasn't that same option he was against Forest. And what Arteta's done is coach them to sense that they've got through a tough period and then get their foot on the ball and and figure out how they're going to do it. But he's also, you saw it today because there was a very interesting camera view we had of the match. There's a lot of Arteta being shown. He's incredibly animated. He's constantly talking to them. It wouldn't surprise me if they've also found a way to communicate in which Arteta knows exactly what to say in as few words possible and they know what they've got to do to tweak the system.
I saw there was one moment that Eze is doing what Eze, I think, does instinctively. He's drifting a little bit more centrally, and you can see Arteta back here, pointing him back to the touchline. That was on camera, and that happened a couple of times, right? I was looking at that saying, okay, all right, that's clearly what he wants from Eze. He does want him hugging the touchline. He doesn't necessarily want him drifting centrally. But there were moments where Eze did cut in with a wonderful bit of trickery, and it broke the mould a little bit, and it gave their defence a bit to think about. And there was that at least one moment where Calafiori takes up that high position, but decides, you know what, I'm going to go on a little bit of a run and drift in a little more centrally. So those guys do give you that sort of wild card attacking outlet where it's not quite as predictable, not as regimented. And I like the fact that it's coming from not just the left-hand side, but also starting at the back from the left-hand side, because it inevitably gives the opposition something different to think about.
Yeah, I thought Eze had some wonderful touches through the game. Look, he wasn't brilliant. I thought he was brilliant against Forest. I didn't think he was brilliant in this game.
He got a lot of stick on commentary. I don't know if you're listening. He got a lot of stick on commentary on TNT.
He did. He was really good. They were really going on about him. And also, what annoyed me, what do they keep saying? That they wanted to see him in the 10.
They said he's not a touchline winger. They said it point blank. They didn't think he's a touchline winger.
And some people said that to me in the comments again on X, or maybe it was in the videos on my Goonerverse News match report. And I'm like, okay, but Rafinha's not a left winger, but he's there because Yamal's on the right. And all together, the collective is better. You know, Ødegaard hasn't been in amazing form, but he's getting better, and he's had injuries. And okay, because he was out, he probably could have played in this game with the 10 Eze. But there's very particular angles. There's a reason Arteta likes left-footers as that right 8, because the particular areas of the pitch they take up, the particular angles it opens up for them to make passes. We don't play with real, like, marauding, underlapping 10s in the way Kevin De Bruyne did. So Eze on that side, I think he can play it. I think he can play it well. I think he gives us another option, but you know, does he suddenly understand the role immediately? You know, that position is also about the press. We always talk about Ødegaard, and Mourinho does it very well. They know how to press. So we can all say, well, Eze needs to be chucked in there. But does Eze press in a front two? Has he done that for Glasner? You know, what everyone wants to see is Eze on the inside pocket. And we saw that off the left on the weekend. But he's not playing that position if we play him in our 10. So I get what people are saying, but there's actually no position in this team that is Eze to a T, because the best Eze we've seen is in a front three, narrow, in a 3-4-3 with wing backs. That's the best version of Eze we've seen. It was at Palace with Glasner. So he's going to have to adapt. What I know is Eze is the best footballer we have that can play in that position. So I want to, you know, I'm happy to persist with him, even if it's as a touchline winger, because no one was complaining about Eze as a touchline winger against Forest. He was destroying his fullback. And it wasn't a problem.
And this is why context is so important, right? Because if anyone just wants to sit here and go, oh yeah, but you didn't look as free-flowing as you did when you played Forest. We played Forest at home, man. I mean, they just lost their manager. It's Ange, by the way. And they didn't have their first choice fullbacks, and they lost a fullback. We're now going away, and I'm not going to rattle it all off again, but there were a number of reasons as to why this game is very, very different, and the occasion is very, very different. So, I mean, it's impossible to do a direct comparison. And anyone thought that we were just going to look exactly the same against Athletic Club might have been slightly too optimistic. But, I mean, when you're looking at, you know, when we look at defenders, right, and we choose lineups, how often do we have conversations like, oh, yeah, Ben White he's better going forward, but this team has this threat, so I think I might choose Timber. Or, oh, Miles is perhaps a little bit better one-on-one than Calafiori. We had that conversation a lot last year. People aren't having that conversation as much now, by the way, because of the way the Calafiori started the season. But that's that at and aside from that.
I think Cal has been our best best player first 5 games.
Bro, that back four. We'll come on to it. This back four is... Anyway, my point is, why don't we take the same approach with the front line? Because there are absolutely certain games where you go, Eze is absolutely going to exploit the defensive weaknesses that this team has, but there might be another game where you go, you know what, Martinelli's a better fit on the left-hand side. Hell, there might be a game where you go, you know what, I need Trossard's technical ability and experience there and know-how in this team. I've said this to you before and I'm going to say it again. Manchester City supporters, when Pep Guardiola and that City team were in their absolute pomp, they were not sitting there pissing and moaning about who was starting, because they just knew that whoever was starting was quality and whoever was coming off the bench was quality. They weren't having these conversations the same way that we are. We're just not trained to be looking at our squad through the lens that we now have to look at our squad, which is absolute strength and depth. We're so preoccupied with trying to choose a starting 11 and figuring out who's the best fit. It's not one size fits all. It is horses for courses. Rotation is important. Game state, Arteta's favourite phrase, is important. Some players, like a quick Martinelli, might be better suited to a stretch game like this. Who knows? But we don't need to pigeonhole players and say this is absolutely our best 11 across the board. I understand you might want to do it for a particular opponent, but it's not. You can't just have this sort of carte blanche approach. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I totally agree. And on that, we've hit the half-hour mark. I want to get on to building our 11. I know you want to praise the back four and we want to talk. I think this would all come out in the building our 11, which is good. We're going to build the 11 we want for Man City at home this weekend. Because I think this is fascinating. What I haven't included is players that definitely won't be available. So Bukayo Saka won't be available. Obviously, David Raya is going to start in goal. We're going to build the rest of the team. So I think this conversation around most positions here, which will be really interesting. You ready for it, Sheroy?
I can't believe you gave me no notice that we were going to do this. But yeah, let's go. Come on. Let's go.
I know, I'm horrible. This is what makes it fun. All right, let's do it. All right, I've got the tactical pad here. First time we're actually using it on the podcast, I believe. So this will be fun. As you can see, we've got basically 2 players for every position. Even with injuries to Jesus, Havertz, Bukayo Saka, we don't know about Ben White yet. There are still basically 2 players in every position that Arteta can look at for this week. And we don't know, like I said, about Ben White's fitness. But I've included him there in case he were to be fit, whether that's a player people would go for. Let's do it. Raya's going to start in goal, Sheroy, so nothing really to say there. We build our back four. I think this is one of them that kind of picks itself. During Timber will keep his place, you think?
Absolutely. And I mean, look, again, that performance today, I know that there were 1 or 2 moments where he could have been a little bit more forward thinking in terms of progressive passing, but man, his defensive capabilities, one-on-one, he's a menace. He's an absolute nuisance, man. He's an absolute nuisance. And I think particularly in a game like City where you do want to let them know that you're about, and they've got players that can take up different positions. It's not like Erling Haaland is always central. Watching the game against United, he did pop up in different positions too. I really do think this is one of those games where when you're looking at your defenders, you choose your best defenders because they are your best defenders and no other reason. And that's why I'm going for Timber. Yeah,
I think, and this is going to be a running theme throughout a lot of this 11 building. As much as you want to beat City and score goals, you've got to stop them too. That just is a part of it. Tottenham won 2-0 the other day, and yes, they pressed, and yes, they were aggressive, and yes, they were brave, but with that constant underlying theme of we're stopping them doing what they do best, and then we build off that platform. So I think Timber, even if White were fit, even if White had got some minutes tonight, which he didn't because he was on the bench, I'd still go Timber. So I think there's no question there. I think long term, Ben White is going to play a lot of football at right back for us. I really do think that. I think there were moments, I thought Timber was really good against Athletic Club, but I just think there were moments where there were certain passes or certain opportunities to help out in an attacking sense. I thought Timber got wrong. He played some lovely passes as well tonight, or last night when you're watching this. But I think White will do a little bit better on that front. But anyway, Timber gets the spot. So we move him out. Now these 2 are interesting. William Saliba and Christian Mosquera. Saliba trained on the weekend, or trained even in the run-up to Forest, but wasn't on the bench. Was on the bench, but Mosquera kept his place. Do you chuck Mosquera in for his 3rd start, or basically his 4th, against Erling Haaland, or do you chuck in William Saliba off the back of an injury? This is a massive call. What do you think he'll do, and what do you want to do? What do you think is the best thing for Arsenal?
From what I heard and from what the manager said, William Saliba perhaps could have started against Forest, but said, Gaffer, I need a few more days, which is why he was on the bench today. Having said that, I know that Arteta does sometimes put people on the bench when they're not actually 100% fit for whatever reason. I think Arteta's going to do what I want to do. I think the 2 align. I don't think that he's going to take, I might be wrong, I don't think he's going to take the risk of throwing Saliba in cold in a game where you're up against Haaland, given that Mosquera. Yeah, I know it's bizarre, but look, Mosquera at Anfield, he passed the Anfield test in his debut. And this isn't like a guy that looks like a fish out of water. He's absolutely slotted in here. I just don't know if he's going to take that risk. I might be wrong. A lot of people are going to be looking at me like, are you mad? It's William Saliba, bro. He walked straight back into that team, and I understand that in terms of pure capability. I'm looking at it from a fitness angle. I'm looking at it from a match fitness angle. This isn't someone that picked up a short-term injury halfway through the season.
Fascinating.
This is someone that picks up a short-term injury quite early on in the season when match fitness is still a thing. and has then had that disrupted. And you can't speak to any professional athlete. Fitness and match fitness are two different things. You need to be match fit. You need to be match sharp. And Mosquera is that. There are a load of people now typing away in the comments going, are you dumb? He literally just played Mosquera now so that he could start Saliba on the weekend. I might be wrong, but my gut is telling me Mosquera is going to start. And if he did, bro, are you telling me he doesn't deserve it if he did?
No, of course he deserves it. He's played really, really well.
You're going the other way.
Yeah, I do, and I've probably given it away with my reaction to yours. I'm surprised. I thought you'd have taken my route, which is that this is Erling Haaland and Man City, and William Saliba hasn't been out long enough for him to have lost any real rhythm and momentum. I get what you're saying. The match fitness element that he's been building up has been disrupted, but I almost think it's these games that bring you to full focus where you go, right, like I have to be super switched on. I have to be really at it because I'm up against Erling Haaland. And for me, Saliba and Gabriel have bullied Haaland time and time again. Even when he has got the odd goal, he's largely been shut out of so many games. And I think he has scored quite a few goals against us, as I'm thinking that. But I think you've got to go with Saliba and Gabriel. I think you have to. And if Saliba's fit, if he's not, if he says, look, I'm still not 100 and he's not quite looking at it in training, then you go Mosquera. But I think if it's like, yeah, like he's barely been away, it took a couple of weeks, but he's back. I think it's more a risk playing Mosquera against not only probably the best goal scorer in the world, but the most physically demanding striker to play against. We see that in a Man City shirt, but his strength and power and pace and movement is the best in the world. And I think by a country, it's weird because I think Gyökeres is kind of similar in the way he'd like to play as a striker, but Haaland is just like generational levels. And I think you've got to get Saliba and Gabriel in for this.
This isn't me saying that I don't think Saliba and Gabriel is our best centre-back pairing when everyone's fully fit. But I'm looking at the context of this. I'm looking at the fact that Saliba, he didn't get any minutes tonight, did he? He didn't come on at all. I'm looking at the fact that, it was only this weekend that he said, I need a bit more time. Maybe he doesn't take that risk. I don't know. And the beautiful thing is, if I'm wrong, I don't care, because we then have the best centre-back partnership in the Premier League starting the game. So okay,
but we need to decide, like, what is Arsenal's best 11 for Man City? We need to agree on this. So
if they're fully fit, Saliba's in the best 11. If they're fully fit,
this weekend.
If he's fully fit,
this weekend, if Saliba's fully fit, Saliba should play.
If he's fully fit, he should play. My concern is that
he's not.
He might be going in cold. That's all. But yeah, if he's fully fit, he should be in there.
I'm going to twist your arm and go Saliba, but I'd love to know what people think in the comments. And let me also just get this in before people think that I've gone too far the Saliba way. Let me just say that Mosquera, wow, what a player. He looks really, really special on and off the ball, and totally accomplished. And actually, there's probably no other player I'd bring in. You know, let's say White was fit, he can play centre-back. Let's say, you know, even when we had Kivior and Tomiyasu, and this is the most comfortable I've ever felt about a player having to come in and do the William Saliba role in the team. Love him. What a player. But I think it's got to be Saliba. If fully fit, if he's declared fully fit, our best team for City has him in it. But it's an interesting debate. We'll pull Mosquera out, but, you know, he should start Port Vale, and he should, you know, start games to give Saliba rest, with or without Saliba or Gabriel, whatever. Gabriel and Cappier is an obvious one, right? Gabriel will take the place, but good seeing Cappier come on for a few minutes. Hopefully we see him more against Port Vale. Calafiori, Lewis Skelly. I know we just said that Calafiori was probably the best player we're 5 games in, and he's probably been our best player. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, and he loves these occasions, man. He scored a banger against City before. The guy doesn't deserve to be dropped, and touch wood, you know, like he looks like he's really sort of revving up and coming towards full fitness now. He influences us going forward too. I know what you were saying about first port of call has to be don't play to their strengths and stop them, but he does give you something going forward that not many, if any, of our players do. He's an absolute wild card. Having said that, Miles Lewis Skelly and a bit of a rivalry with Erling Haaland. He scored against them too. You know, they've had their moments. But I just don't think Miles has had anywhere near enough minutes to suggest that Arteta's going to pick him for this one. It would be a really, really left field choice, and in my opinion, an unwise choice if he disrupted that back four at this stage.
I agree. I think the discussion around Lewis Skelly is what he's done in terms of big games and shutting players out. And I think that was probably fair going into this season. But Calafiori shut out Mo Salah brilliantly, was the match winner against Man United, and I thought did well, even on a yellow card for a lot of that game, I believe he was, and came up against Mbemo, one of the most frightening right wingers in the league. And now he's just all been doing it time and time again. He's now gone away to Athletic Club. And also have gone to Bilbao, Liverpool, and Manchester in these first 5 games and picked up, basically 2 wins and a very narrow kind of defeat, in which we probably deserved more. And Calafiori's been a part of all that. So, you can't blame him for the Szoboszlai free kick. The defence is doing its thing, so I'll stick with Calafiori. I agree with you. All right. Ben White started on the opening day, didn't he? Yeah. He started against United. God, I really hope he can get fit because he had that shot.
He has to, because Timber will break down if he has to keep doing it. You can't play that many minutes in back-to-back seasons when you're coming back from that kind of injury. I didn't like the fact that Timber had to play as much as he did last year. Ben White's got to get fit. This isn't one of those situations where we have the odd midfielder who can play it right back with relative ease or whatever. That's a position where we really do need Ben White at full fitness, man.
Just want to see what Arteta said about Ben White. Did you read any quotes from him?
No, but I mean, if he's not included in the squad, bro.
Well, I know it's not good. He said, oh, come on. What did he say?
If I had to guess, knowing Arteta, he would have said something along the lines of, he's not ready yet. And that's that.
Yeah, useless update. That was good. Just read something off a paper. It was terrible. All right, let's build our midfield then. Look, I mean, this is so fascinating. You can go so many ways with this. So I've got here Rice, Marino, Zubimendi, Norgard, Ødegaard, Waneri. Now, of course, Eze could be the 10. So let's pull out the one player we know isn't starting, and it's Christian Norgard, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Norgard comes out. Ødegaard, Waneri, Rice, Marino.
It's really difficult because who I choose in midfield is inevitably going to be influenced by who I think is going to occupy the left wing. But I get that we have to do it in this order. Rice is starting. Rice and Zubimendi. I mean, they're absolute shoo-ins, aren't they?
Let's do the whole team together. I didn't take Lewis Skelly out, so let's take Lewis Skelly out. Let's do the whole. Let's talk about the left wing at the same time. So I agree that they're important. So Zubimendi's going to start. We agree Zubimendi has to be in the team.
Yeah.
Cool. So Zubimendi, let's give him that sort of position there. Now, Ødegaard, do we think he'll be fit? Are we assuming he will be? I think he probably will be.
You think he will be?
Came back quite quickly from the last shoulder injury. And look, also, I have to say, this sounds so harsh. I know these are like, I can see he's falling and that would hurt, but like, I'm not expecting these to be keeping him out for ages. Like, he landed on his shoulder badly. That happens in life. Like, we've all done it in football. Am I being harsh?
Bro, I don't even know what the injury is though, man. Like, what if it was like a possible hairline fracture and he played through it and then he landed on it and it was really, really bad afterwards? Like, it could be.
You know what? You're right. I'm talking complete and utter shite.
And you got to put your body about when you're in that position, man. Football isn't just played with your feet. It's tough. If you're in excruciating pain there, bro, like, he might not be fit. He might not be fit.
I agree. But again, I need to find some quotes on Ødegaard. Sorry, guys, I can't take back what I was saying. That wasn't fair. Like, but I'm just saying, like, when he injured himself against Leeds and he was fine a week later for the bench, I wasn't surprised. I thought, yeah, that sounds about right. You land, it can be awkward. We've all played football or played sport. You land on it badly. It doesn't feel great for 2-3 days. You think it's really bad, but it clears up quite quickly. And then he plays against Liverpool. He comes on. He then plays 2 games in international duty. I'm just expecting this to be more of the same. I can't imagine he's carrying some sort of underlying fracture that he's played kind of basically 4 other games since then. I don't know. I don't know.
If you aggravate the same injury, it could be a little bit worse than people think. But again, I don't know. Are we going to operate on the assumption that he's fully fit?
No, let's not. Let's operate on the assumption that he's not fit, because at the moment for everything I've said, at the moment, the information is that he's not.
Then
that's a more interesting debate, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's more fun, because now let's pull Ødegaard out. So now, basically, any one of Waneri, Marino, or Eze could start in the 10. So let's bring Rice next to Zubimendi. I will say one thing. Rice has to play and Rice will play. I think there's an argument for Zubimendi, Marino, and then a more natural 10. I wouldn't, but I think Marino's the red-hot 4 midfielder of all our kind of 6-8s, if you know what I mean. It means he doesn't have to play in the 10, but you still get him in the team. I would start Rice because he's brilliant, and you have to for a game like this. But listen, we played our best football of the season with Marino, Zubimendi, and Waneri.
Yeah, but Rice is your £100 million man. He's a big game player. We've seen that numerous times. He's an absolute engine. And the reality of the situation is he was rested on the weekend because of these 2 games. Like Declan Rice is playing.
I agree. Don't you think he really, I tweeted this on the Goonerverse account, do you think he really comes alive away from home, a goal to protect or a lead to protect, open game? Like suddenly his touches, his carrying of the ball just comes to life. His ability to win it back and cover grass. He, for me, becomes like the best player on the pitch in that game state.
That's where his engine tells, because that's where everyone's level has dropped a bit, whereas his has either stayed the same or the guy's fitness is so nuts that he might have gone up just a little bit, and then he looks a completely different class to everyone around him. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who are you going for? We're saying
Marino.
Who are you going for?
We've got Marino, Waneri, and Eze. That I'll just say one last thing because this is Martinelli related and it helps us make a decision on Eze. Martinelli will do the defensive work to nullify City. Whatever we think, I know people are so bored of hearing about it, but people need to realise that even the best managers have had a James Milner, very talented player, a better player than Martinelli, but was looked at for what he could give you off the ball as well. That those players have existed. And forgive me if I'm wrong, United fans, please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But Ji-sung Park, I remember, would be brought in by Sir Alex Ferguson for particular games, big games. He'd often nick a goal. Again, they'd argue better player than Martinelli. Yeah, sure, I didn't watch that much of him, but what I did see, very talented footballer. But I remember he came in on the left or on the right and a nanny might come out or whatever because they needed him for a particular game state. And Martinelli, I know we saw him as the young Brazilian who got 15 non-penalty GA a couple of years ago, but maybe he's just evolving into this kind of player, a utility, hard-working option who gives you a principle and who gives you a platform in a big game to do more. Maybe that's what he is.
Yeah, you've got me thinking. The way that I'm trying to look at it now is I'm conducting this sort of like cost-benefit analysis in my head. I'm looking at which pairing. I'm looking at which pairing, in my opinion, positively impacts the 11, not just the front line, but the 11 the most, right? So if I'm looking at, for example, I don't know, Marino and Martinelli, I'm saying distinct lack of creativity and I'm ruling it out immediately, right? If I'm looking at Marino in there and Eze on the left, I'm saying, okay, but I do trust our defense and I do trust those two that will be sitting in there to do a job. Do I want a bit more going forward? I'm then looking at Ethan and I'm saying, given the amount of minutes that he's had so far, and I wouldn't say lack of trust, but I would say that the manager's reluctance to start him in games, let alone a game like this, I'm kind of leaning away from him too. And going back to what I said at the beginning about experience, I know you only get experience by people giving you experience, but I'm not sure that throwing you into a game against Manchester City with Haaland in the form that he's in is necessarily the kind of atmosphere that you need at that point, particularly when we have experienced players who can occupy that position. So where I'm going, long story short, I am going Eze in the 10, Martinelli on the left. That's what I'm doing, and that's what I think.
Pull your players out for a sec. So you're going.
He loves Martinelli in these big games because of that defensive point that you just raised, right? And if I'm operating on the basis that Odegaard's not fit, if I'm operating on the basis that he's not going to start Ethan for the reasons that I've just suggested, I personally would start Eze. However, sorry, I should know this. Are you on the tactical pad going with what I want or what we think the manager's going to do?
No, we're doing what we believe is Arsenal's best 11.
Okay,
at the moment, we've got Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel Calafiori, Rice, Marino. Now, let me just skip 2 positions and we'll go back. We agree Madueke and Gyökeres will obviously start. It won't be Dalman and Trossard, right?
That's right.
Right, so we pull them out. So the two here to talk about are Waneri and Marino. What I think he'll do is this.
I think he'll start Marino.
I think he'll go Marino.
Yeah.
I think he'll go Zubimendi, Rice, Marino with Martinelli on the left, Gyökeres up front, and Madueke on the right. Actually, I don't.
Before you change your mind, can I tell you why I think he will do that?
You think he will go Martinelli, Marino? I think he'll go Martinelli, Marino, and yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I think he will
with Eze. Okay,
because of his character. He knows. He's already said in press conferences. He knows the criticism that he got with the Anfield lineup. He always wants to vindicate his choices, whether past or present. And he might go, "I'm going to do it again, and now I'm going to show you." The guy, for all of his positive qualities, and even this might be considered a positive quality in certain instances, he's a stubborn man. And he likes proving his point. And that's why I think he goes Marino Martinelli.
Right. So you think that he will go with that. Okay, fine. Look, I think there's a good chance he goes for that. But we need to... Okay, so I need to clear up exactly what we're doing here. You think he's going to go Marino and Martinelli. I think he's going to go Marino... Can't speak. I think he's going to go Marino. Eze on the left, Marino, because that's the team that started this game last night and won. And Eze's got the starts in the last few games, and I think we'll go with that. But we're building what we believe is the best. Like, it's up to you, Sheroy. It's up to me. What are we going for? I'll put mine out there first. I take Marino out. I say, thanks for the memories, mate. It's been brilliant. And I'd bring Waneri in. I would do it. I'd be brave. City have conceded goals. I say that I've got 2 clean sheets, but Brighton got at them, Tottenham got at them. Waneri's good enough. Like, he's not. This isn't De Bruyne, David Silva, Rodri again. It might be Rodri, and it's still going to be a brilliant midfield. And I think we'll spend quite a bit of time without the ball. But I think Waneri's got that kind of trickery to open the game up. I think he'll support Madueke nicely. That's the midfield I'd go for. And I'd go for Eze on the left again, because I think he's a better balance for the marauding up and down Calafiori. I think Arsenal should be looking to take the game to City. I don't think that's what we'll do, which is why I said I think we'll go for Marino in there. But for me, the best 11 Arsenal can put out is having Waneri in there with Eze on the left.
Understood. And mine is, again, going back to your point about being brave and being good enough, and the fact that City can be got at. That's why I want Eze in the 10. I think he's a magic player, and I think that is where he can do something.
Who on the left? Who do you want on the left if Eze starting as your 10?
I'd again go Nelly on the left. Because I think
Nelly to start on the left.
Yeah, I mean, going back to exactly what you say about his defensive work, he's just scored a goal. We need to try and get some confidence into this player to make sure that he can fulfill his role in the squad. What better opportunity to do it? And even with that, I'm sitting there looking at Eze, I'm looking at Gyökeres, I'm looking at Madueke, who can beat a man, I'm looking at a Martinelli that just scored a goal. I think there's enough. And I'm talking about those players, not even considering the attacking threat that we have in our back four. Gabriel is a massive set piece threat. Calafiori is an attacking outlet, like he is. I think there's more than enough balance in that team. But I also think there's more than enough balance in yours, bro. I mean,
okay, yeah. I mean, mine's a little lightweight because you've got Zubimendi, Waneri, alongside Rice. It's a lot of work for Rice to do. Plus Eze, terrific player. He's a better player than Martinelli. He's probably not got the defensive awareness or tactical understanding, whether people find that insulting to Eze or not. I mean, he's only been here a handful of games. There's no way he understands what to do off the ball as quickly and as well as Martinelli understands from Arteta. So to sum up, we both agree that in our best 11, Marino doesn't start as much as he's been on good form. So the battle is between Martinelli and Waneri, and that defines the role Eze plays. You'd have him in the 10, I'd have him on the left. To show you, if Waneri gets the start, then I would love to see this kind of shape from Arsenal, which is Calafiori bombing up and down the left with Saliba, Timber, that back three, Rice tucked in next to Zubimendi. I don't want Rice bombing up and down as a box-to-box. I've really liked the way he's been used. I'm guessing if you're saying Eze in the pockets, then I'll take out Waneri and you'd go Eze, what kind of like that right 10 with Martinelli moving more central, or would you want Rice up the pitch? How do you think it looks tactically?
I definitely want Martinelli a bit more central, man. I definitely want him a bit more central, and I'd honestly, I'd like him to time his runs properly, but also just be central, but on that shoulder. That's exactly the position that he was. Every Martinelli moment, every Martinelli goal where we sit there and go, that's what he's about. It's not really from the touchline, bro.
I agree with you.
It is from a slightly more central position. That's where I think he does his best work. And I think that if you have Eze drifting out towards that right-hand side, the inevitable threat one-on-one that Madueke is going to bring, it does give Martinelli that opportunity. He doesn't have to hold his width all the time, despite what the manager says. If he does operate a little bit more centrally, I think there'll be a real opportunity, particularly because we now have, well, I say a 9, but he's a 14. We have a striker that those centre-backs are also going to have to really, really occupy, bro. He's a problem.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, well, we can see on screen, everyone, that's sort of Sheroy's 11 in shape. Mine involves pretty much the same thing, but Eze Martinelli's placed in one area in the 10. We'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Think you're more open to a Mascara start as well. I'm open to a Mascara start. You just think it's probably going to go that way if Saliba's not match fit, and that's what you'd go with. I think if Saliba is even 95%, I still think you go with him because of what he's done in his history in this kind of battle with Haaland and Gabriel. It's kind of worked out well. Go on.
Just out of curiosity, if Odegaard was fully fit, would you have started him instead of Ethan?
Yeah. Okay. I think we agree. If Odegaard's fully fit, Odegaard gets that place and Eze's on the left. And let's do that very quickly. Let's take Martinelli out, Odegaard. That's the shape. If Odegaard's fit, he absolutely plays. Sets the tempo for the press, helps get us control of the ball, used to this fixture. And I think this is, guys, I mean, this might be our best team. No, Saka's missing. So, okay, we're one player short of our best. Saka's he's potentially available for this game. I mean, that was the original time frame. But Madueke is playing so well, they won't rush him. And that's amazing. We haven't even to talk about the possibility of Saka being fit because I just don't see it being possible. So, yeah, it's a great problem. It's a great problem to have.
Yeah, for sure. For what it's worth, I think Saka might make the bench. But I'm glad you said that about Odegaard, because a lot of what I've been hearing after these 2 games where he's come off is, but look how much better we looked without him. And bro, I understand that he's having a bad patch of form, but the levels of disrespect and complete disregard for what that guy brings to the team, even when he's not at his attacking best, is just mad. It's frustrating that people have such short memories and don't understand what he does and what he can bring. And the notion that people have already just gone, he's not going to hit those heights again, and just given up on the prospect of that happening. I don't see it that way, and I'm glad you don't either.
I just wonder when we're going to learn that players come in and out of form, because I think it's only the very, 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 very best that kind of maintain such unbelievable consistency, or they maintain a consistency because they're not as important as we want an Odegaard to be, so we don't really notice it as much. Madueke looks a different player under Arteta. Kai Havertz, complete turnaround in that sort of 6 to 9 months he had at Arsenal, after he came back from Chelsea. And we see it time and time again. Players go in and out of form. Odegaard was in terrible form last year. I think he started this season quite well. I'm not prepared to give up on him. I'm seeing players elevated by the signings. I'm already seeing there be a lift from others. Martinelli coming off the bench. Trossard has looked very good in his cameos. Why can Odegaard not get there? And also, we haven't seen anywhere near enough football from Odegaard to suggest he's not getting there. And what I have seen, I've been quite encouraged by. It's not his best, but I've been like, yeah, he's looking all right. People forget that Odegaard hit a terrible patch of form in the 21-22 season. After we'd signed him, we'd spent £35 million on him. He wasn't in great form. Lacazette and Aubameyang were starting together up front. I remember Arteta went Lacazette in the 10, Aubameyang up front, basically 4-4-2'd it, right? And we thought, that's not encouraging. That's not good. Is Odegaard going to win his place? And then he did. Season after that, he won his place back. Then he got even better. Then he got better again. So it's not even alien to us that Odegaard goes through a bad patch of form. I've no doubt he'll get it back.
And in amongst all that, he became our captain. So I think that says it all.
Exactly. Well, we're going to leave it there, everyone. Let us know your 11s in the comment section below. That was, they were titled in this video something like Arsenal's best 11 to face City. But obviously there was quite a lot of chat from our Champions League win. Didn't touch much on Forest because I think, we've all had our fun with that win. But that's it. Sheroy, a big thank you as always for joining. I really appreciate it. There will be a tactical preview on the Goonerverse, provided I can get some good research done and record that, but I'm home now. Of course, go subscribe to Goonerverse News, where I'm doing match reports and reacting to everything. And of course, Sheroy's voice, we always at him in the description. So go subscribe to that channel. I'm sure Sheroy will be back doing content there whenever you're ready, man. But I look forward to it.
Yeah. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But for now, bro, I'm enjoying these early in the week Goonerverse sessions, man.
Yeah, me too. They're good fun. Nice to do one straight after a game. All right, big thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. We'll catch you all, Tuesday next week. So a couple days after that City result. But yeah, you'll see all our reactions across various social platforms. All right, catch you in a bit.